And we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Nelson Vasquez. This is Kiltz Health Live in the afternoon on a special day. 3 p.m. on Monday is not one of our usuals. Uh, and for whoever's here and is not a member of the Kills Mighty Tribe, the link is in the description. Uh, and become a member. It's free. We have on Mondays a Zoom call, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, which means in 2.5 hours we're going to be doing that Zoom call, and that is going to be with Dante Ferrigno. So we have Dante uh, in a little bit in our private community. You have to be a member. Sorry, if you're not a member, you cannot watch it, and it's going to cost you giving us your email because otherwise it's free. So uh, also, let me see, did we give away already? Oh, we were doing a 20-pound giveaway. I guess it's gone, but you'll find also the link for the Boston meetup. We are having a meetup on the 28th of June. So in less than 2 weeks, we'll be in Boston. Dr. Kiltz will be there. Um, I will be there. We'll be going to Fogo de Chao. And oh, VIP tickets are sold out, but there's still few of the tickets. And Diane Ladd, with her multiple sclerosis story, is going to be there. Carrie Mann from Healing Humanity, Dr. Lisa Widerman. She's a carnivore doctor. Adam Lacey from Healing Humanity, of course, Dr. Kills. Dr. Boss will be there. Dr. Thomas Seyfried, who is a professor in one of the Boston college areas. Chris Brandlin and Heather Stone, Dr. Heather Stone will be there. So we have a pretty good lineup. Come and be with us. It is a joint promotion for Healing Humanity and Kills Health. All righty. So we have today Christie. Her YouTube channel is Meeting Wellness, and she's probably well known for many people in this community. And she was supposed to be with me last week. There were some technical difficulties, so we're doing it on a Monday, because otherwise she's gonna be in school soon. What month to month does it run school in California?
Well, in my district, we get out in June. Jay was just asking me in the chat if I'm out of school. I am out of school. So we got out, I think the last day was June 6th, and then we go back August 11th. So summer vacation is more like a 2-month thing now, not 3 months anymore, but we get, just different breaks throughout the year. So yeah, August 11th, I'll be back at it for my 26th year in public education.
All righty, 26. That's quite a lot. Yeah. So you in many districts used to be, and I don't know if it's still everywhere the same. I mean, different areas of the country do it differently, but used to be September to June, kind of when it got really hot in most places. That's when you were out of school. When growing up in Puerto Rico, it was always August, somewhere at the beginning of August, never into June. We were done by middle to third week of May usually. So I know my graduation from high school was at the end of May. don't remember the day because even though it happened the other day. All right.
Isn't that
All
funny?
right. So thank you everyone for being here. I see a lot of familiar names here. Jay Bud, Juliet Marie. Good questions this morning, Juliet. We can talk about your results maybe on another live. And I see Tom, Sandy, Tommy Jordan, Rick is here, and many others. Anyways, let's talk to Christie. Christie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do. Part of it you already mentioned, school teacher for 26 years. That's quite an accomplishment. What grades do you normally teach? And a little bit of your carnivore story. We want to touch on school food. That's a hot topic for some people. What are we feeding our kids? Is it good food or is it not? And by the way, just a comment on that. When I was growing up, 100% of what I ate for lunch was cooked from Whole Foods by a bunch of people that were always in the kitchen, the school kitchen. I don't think that's what happens anymore, though.
No.
And when did I graduate from high school? Well, we're already planning our 50th
Oh, wow.
anniversary. It was 48 years ago, but we're planning our 50th from now. It's going to be in Florida, even though we graduated in Puerto Rico. There's a story behind that. Anyways, so at least might not have been the what I would consider now the best, but it was Whole Foods. I mean, there might have been something that came out of a can, like I remember peaches, perhaps that came in a can with heavy syrup, but otherwise everything else was cooked that day. All right.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us who you are and start with that.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Christie. I see a lot of familiar names in the chat, so it is nice to see all of you. Teaching is a profession that takes a lot out of a person, and the last month of school there's a lot involved in that. And so I've sort of been off of YouTube for about the last month. Thank you for the comment about that you miss Lioness Lifestyle. Yes, that was just getting really difficult to keep up, but I missed that show too. I have been a teacher since the year 2000. So it's very easy for me to keep track because it was in the year 2000 that was my first year. And I started off teaching 4th grade. And then 2 years in, they moved me to 5th grade, so not too far. And I've pretty much been in 5th grade ever since, with a couple of exceptions of I had 2 years where I taught a 4-5 combo. So 4th and 5th grade has been basically my entire career. And starting in 2000, I had students. Well, I've always actually taught in a low socioeconomic area. You know, students with whose families don't have a lot of money, who may have, many of them have English as a second language as an extra challenge on top of that. And so that's the demographic where I teach. But we in the past, when I first started teaching, we would see students, you know, they could come to me and they could sit, you know, and they could work for long periods of time. If you asked them to write 5 paragraphs, they would do it with a pencil, not on a computer, but with a pencil and without complaining, and without too much struggling, you know, for the most part. And I started to notice, you know, as my career progressed, that the attention spans started to decline. I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't have a lot to think about that food had anything to do with it. In fact, when I would hear parents talk to me about, well, it's that red dye that's given everybody ADD, parents would say that, I would just kind of laugh that off. I didn't really take too much stock in that at that time, but it was just kind of a steady decline in, what the children were able to do independently, especially too. And yes, thank you, Juliet Marie, saying, God bless her fifth graders. Yes, I have next year on my roster, I will have 32 fifth graders. And people often ask me, do you get an aide? And the answer is no. So it's me, myself, and I, and 32, 10-year-olds. So it's fun time. Anyway, I just started noticing this decline, right, in what kids could do. And then I started having children of my own, and, both of them were diagnosed with ADHD. Both of them in their respective elementary years, around one of them in third grade and one of them in, I think, fifth grade. And, just worked with a lot of students also that were diagnosed with a similar thing. And, a lot of people think that, or, know that the decline kind of took place in 2020, but I'm here to tell you that it was happening before that. And that maybe that event in 2020 maybe accelerated it. It just made it easier for kids to slack off, because as a teacher, I was told, well, just give them grace. And even if they don't turn anything in, just give them a good grade, because this is a hard time for everybody. And they didn't really have to do much work, academically, because of the challenges that were going on. And so, yes, I think that, sped it up. But where I am, I think next school year will be the first year that my grade level will have students that didn't actually go through that. So there are people still kind of using that as a excuse for the problems. But, this year I had kids that missed, kindergarten or did kindergarten online. So it's becoming less and less.
Just a comment on that.
Yeah, sure.
I think that this is not where the problem started, right? I think the time that we went through basically just revealed the problem, right?
Yes. And I think accelerated it, but it was going long before that. I started seeing a decline in the things that I said: attention span, ability to do things independently. And, I would say write a 5-paragraph essay, which is something that a fifth grade student is supposed to be able to do. And they would pretty much be able to do it. And now, you can say, write a sentence, and that's so much writing, my hand hurts, that kind of thing. And so they're just a lot less resilient, overall for a lot of them. Right. And then and it was even further revealed when my own children were diagnosed with ADHD, and I saw some of the difficulties that they were having. But, that's kind of like my teaching experience. But if we zoom back out and look at my personal experience, I was a yo-yo dieter from way back, from, the late 80s, early 90s, when I was a teen. That started up, and I was constantly, looking for ways to try to lose weight. Usually it involved counting calories and starving and maybe some over exercising. And then I tried, low carb, but without really knowing much about it. So I ate probably too much of the processed type stuff. And then finally discovered keto, meat-based keto, and then going carnivore shortly after that. So I've been carnivore now for 2 years, and keto before that for about 3 to 4 months, prior to going carnivore. So I've had a good almost 2.5 years of, eating this way. And when you start, a lot of people that have been, doing this for a little while, it doesn't take long before you start making these connections of like diets, other things, because I went into this just wanting to lose 20 pounds. But wait a minute, my knee stopped hurting, and my acne went away, and my hand, my right hand, the knuckles used to ache, and now they don't. And I had anxiety, and that's gone. And all of these other weird, symptoms that you just thought, oh, that's just getting older, sort of reversed. And my, so things that I never really equated with food, started to improve. And so at one point, about a little over a year ago, my son, my youngest son, he is currently 16, but at the time he was 15, and he had struggled with severe ADHD symptoms, including, I think, what people think of as the typical ADHD, you know, can't sit still and all that kind of stuff. Well, as a teacher, the can't sitting still that's not the issue, right? It's some of the other symptoms. And my son definitely had a lot of those. And probably one of the most severe ones was meltdowns. So he would just have these meltdowns over pretty small, what most people would consider small things that would trigger him or bother him to the point of these meltdowns. You know, and so I tried as a teacher and a mom multiple things for him, but never thinking about food, never, ever. And some of that was because he had some other issues. He has sensory integration processing disorder. So he has a lot of texture issues with food. So it was, you know, his whole life up until February of 2024, it was just, if he'll eat it, great, because getting him to eat anything was super challenging because of his texture issues. And so, but we worked from all the other places, right? The things that the school could offer, including the counselor, occupational therapy, all different kind of educational plans, right? And then I spent a lot of out-of-pocket money doing some of those things, but like through insurance, because they could offer more services than the school could offer. And even to the point of medication. And none of which, this is like, I'm trying to shorten this because it's a pretty long story, but none of which basically did any good for any of his symptoms at all. We just never saw any improvement. And in fact, you know, in trying to do the counseling and the strategies, some of those things would just make him more mad. Like anytime a teacher or parent would try to get him to use the strategies that the counselors had taught him, he would fight against that. And that would often trigger a meltdown, you know, in itself. And so I just got to thinking after we did everything and finally, you know, medication, which he wasn't happy with. And so I took him off. I thought, well, let's, maybe he'd be willing to change his diet. You know, I changed my diet and I had anxiety, which is a mental health type of thing. So maybe for ADHD, maybe it could help, you know, but at this point he's 15, right? And the schools here in California, getting to the topic of the show, offer 2 free meals every single day. So that started with all the schools in the state doing that in 2020. And there are still some schools around that offer it. My school is one, and my son, where he goes to high school, is one. So he could go and get whatever food they're serving at any time, you know, even without a driver's license, or, you know, he has a brother with a driver's license, he has friends, you know, he can pretty much, you know, my husband just kind of still eats whatever. And so there is that stuff in the house. And so he could eat whatever he wanted pretty much whenever he wanted without needing my, you know, permission or money to do it, because of the way the school food is. And so I really had to get buy-in from him. And he agreed to try it for 30 days. And he just basically didn't look back. His symptoms have just improved tremendously, all with the exception of schoolwork. He really still doesn't have much of an interest in schoolwork. But I think, so it's been 16 months, I guess now, that he's been eating a carnivore diet. And he used to melt down even at the age of 15. He would have about 3 meltdowns a week. And he's had 1 meltdown in that entire span of time. 1 in 16 months.
Now
and it was like a switch flipped and he just stopped freaking out.
Interesting school you mentioned.
Yeah.
Has there been any improvement in his grades? And also the behavior improvement, definitely. I know his teachers probably appreciate it a lot. But has there been any improvement in schoolwork at all?
No. So in schoolwork, I wish we would have known when he was little. I wonder if it had gone differently, if his whole school experience had been lived differently, right? I don't know. But so that's the one thing that did not improve. He is very intelligent. We had all that tested. He had an individualized education plan. So he had a full psychoeducational analysis, including an IQ test and other things. And, you know, his IQ is above average. He has all kind of potential and smarts up there. and he just chooses to use them for other things, not schoolwork. But the boy can fix a computer. I think he'll be okay if I can just get him to graduate high school. So, he teaches himself the things that he's interested in, which right now is computers,
And as you know, probably more than me, being a teacher, sometimes these things evolve. They change over time. Students' interest. Now, my son, this is not the same age bracket, because go back 10 years before your son's age. When my oldest was just 5, 6, learning to read, he didn't really learn to read until he was almost in 3rd grade. He had to take summer remedial classes. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was in the 3rd grade. And part of this may have been the teacher that he had at the time. We liked her very much. But it was like we threw a switch, or he threw a switch. I mean, it was that sudden, from having difficulty reading. Now he devours a book frequently. He's 2 of my 3 kids are very interested in reading. I used to do my lives in a room with a bunch of books. It wasn't medical books. It's all the books my kids have read. So, there was a moment that after whatever intervention, it finally clicked. And, maybe that will happen or not, but it's very good. He does have interest. It's just, books and maybe school are not at the top of the list for him.
Yeah, he was a voracious reader for most of the time. He never had trouble learning how to read. He always read multiple grade levels past his level. It's a matter of the teacher says, I need to do this assignment and it's due on this day. And he's like, whatever. he chooses to not complete assignments and complete them by the due date and all of that stuff.
By the way, if you have any questions for Christie, please put them in the chat. QQQ. If you put that, I'll be able to see that better. I don't have anyone helping me doing that today. And I do have already one question. So let's go ahead and show that. What are the symptoms of carb deficiency after 5 years of BBBE diet? What do you think, Christie?
Well, I am not a doctor like you, Dr. Nelson, and I can only speak from my personal experience, but I am not 5 years in. I am 2.5 years in. I'm not strictly BBBE. And for those of you that might be new here, that's beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. But that's probably 98% of what I eat. I, for example, had bacon and eggs this morning for breakfast. So I do typically eat a BBBE diet, and I have had really no symptoms of carb deficiency. My mental clarity is better. All of those symptoms I mentioned earlier on continue to stay better. Hormonal acne, some probably pre-arthritis, never diagnosed with arthritis, but my knee would kind of randomly swell up. I wasn't able to do squats or things like that. My hand would ache, that kind of stuff. My sleep is better. So all of those things, which initially seemed so miraculous, it's now just kind of part of my everyday experience. And I don't have a lot of negatives, including I don't have cravings for carby things that people can sit in front of me. Like yesterday, I was at my in-laws for Father's Day, and people sat there eating all kinds of carby foods, which I guess I won't name in case it triggers anyone, but it doesn't even faze me. And my son as well. My son is sitting there. All of his cousins are there. All of the cousins are eating the desserts and things. And he's just sitting there. He sat at the table with his cousins and he talked to them with no dessert in front of him. Perfectly okay with that. Not a complaint, not a problem.
And that, I think that is impressive because he's 16, right?
Mm-hmm. He's 16 now. Yeah.
And being tempted. I mean, as adults, many of us find this triggering or tempting to sit with family. I went to a restaurant with my family yesterday, and I have turned already a couple of them. Well, my wife is not carnivore, but many meals she only has animal products. But she's keto. She had some broccoli with her meat. One of my sons has gone. He calls it dirty carnivore. I'm not complaining. You know, he's using sauces and spices.
Mhm.
But over a week now, um, he lost. I know he lost 8 pounds, so that's good. But there was bread on the table. At this restaurant, usually they bring you 2 little loaves of bread, and when we send the thing back, there was only 1.5 because only 2 people
Mhm.
ate from the bread. So it takes a while. I'll be 2 years this month. The 29th is my 2-year carniversary. Um, 718 days today. But going back to the 16-year-old in front of other things that he could be eating, that I find that very interesting that uh, I'm interpreting what you said, but I think he finds himself feeling good, he can tell the difference good enough that okay, that doesn't interest me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So at a not yesterday, but the previous family gathering to that, there was an aunt there, and she's not carnivore, but she's very into no seed oils and tallow and whole foods and like all this kind of stuff, right? So similar in a way. And so she was asking him like, so Zach, in 10 years from now, do you think you'll still be eating this way? And he paused to consider it, and he's like, well, 10 years is a long time. That's what he said. And then he said, but I think yes. I think yes, in 10 years I will still be eating this way.
well,
So
that's a good answer. I mean, 10 years is a long time.
mhm.
We'll see. Okay, so I'm answering now the question. The term deficiency is very important here, and I don't know. This was, uh, I think she knew the answer, but she's asking the question just to have us talk about it.
Mhm.
She or him? I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm cursed. I don't know. Anyways, so deficiency is a word used specifically with a meaning that when you don't have something that is essential, is the other word that would fit with this. You can have symptoms of a deficiency because your body does not produce them. We have, uh, among other things that are essential, some vitamins. We have some amino acids, 9 of them, that are essential amino acids. There are about 20 amino acids that we deal with in the body. There are more, by the way, but about 20. And if you don't have one of the ones your body cannot make by itself, you can develop a problem, a deficiency, which will lead to a disease. Now, we call those essential amino acids. And that means you don't make them, but they're required for life. If you go for a long time not having either one or multiple of those amino acids, you will develop a problem. If not corrected, you die. So that's what a deficiency eventually could lead to. Now, we also have essential fatty acids. I think those are probably the most well recognized by almost everyone will be omega-3 fatty acids, right? And probably is the most important among the different essential fatty acids that we have, and we do not produce what we need. So we have to obtain it from food. the best source would be animal food, because the two main omega-3 fatty acids that we need are EPA and DHA. Now, several years ago, finally, they put some DHA in formulas, although formulas have a long way to go before I could say any of those are really good. I mean, the best formula is mother's milk, but at least they're adding DHA because it's very important for brain development. So, essential fatty acids, absence of them in your diet leads to deficiencies. Now, I think this is something that everybody here knows, but if you don't, please list on your chat in the comments how many essential carbohydrates do we have that will lead to a deficiency. And I want you to put a word there. Whatever the answer is, put a word, and let's see what the answer is. Anyways, I think everybody here knows. I hope everybody knows the answer to that is absolutely zero. We don't have any need for consumption of carbohydrates in our diet. So, like many people I put in there zero. I see Alias here. Okay. So that's the correct answer is zero. Okay, let me see if we have any other comments or questions here. There is a question here. Christie, does your son take any ADHD medications any longer or not? Just curious.
So my younger son does not. That was a whole process. That was a fight with the insurance company to even try medication for him. Because of his texture issues, he has a really hard time swallowing a pill. So we were looking for something in the form of a liquid or a powder or something that, that he would actually take, because he was actually just hiding the pills and not taking them and telling me he was taking them and that kind of thing. And we finally had some, success in the sense of getting one that could be in a powder form. So I would mix it in with his food, and he took that consistently for about 3 months. Now his response to that was it did help him focus, but he could tell that it was the medicine doing it. And he didn't like that feeling of feeling like he wasn't really in control, that it was something else making him, do the right thing or focus or stay on task or whatever you want to say. He just didn't he said it kind of made him feel trapped in his own skin. And so that was the point where I was like, okay, then we're done with this and we're going to stop medication. So he is no longer taking any medication. My older son still has a prescription for ADHD medication, and he was taking it, but he is now an adult. So he's 19. And the last time that he went to the doctor, he didn't ask for a refill. So I don't think that he took it all through high school. It did seem to help him. He didn't take it on weekends. He didn't take it during summer, but when he would go to class, he would take it. And it did seem to help him. But as of now, neither one of my sons are taking any medication for ADHD.
And is your oldest also carnivore or heavy animal based or?
No, I asked him if he would also be interested, and he was not interested in changing his diet. And, he has his own money, a car. He's, 19 at the time of the diet change for my other son. He was 18, so he still lives at home, but he pays rent and all that stuff. So he's, I can't really, make him. Well, I couldn't make the younger one either, even though he's a minor. So I'm just, just waiting for the day that maybe he'll decide to change. He didn't have a severe, his difficulty in completing tasks is just as severe, but he didn't have the meltdowns and other things that my younger son had. So, but my younger son I wish that my older son would try it, because I think with organizational skills, with, his reaction to life is a lot less, he's able to just kind of roll with the punches more, I would say. He's become more social, doing things off of his computer and going and hanging out with people, which he never used to do since changing his diet. So there's been a ton of positive benefits that I think that my older son could benefit from. But he's seen me now, and he's watched his brother, and just isn't interested.
And I want to point out that your youngest, his decision was definitely his in changing his diet. So don't be reporting Christie to the authorities about
Right. Oh, it was 100%. I couldn't force them if I wanted to. It's, having a 15-year-old at the time, he was 15, like I said, a lot different than having a 2-year-old where they're totally dependent on you. He can still, when he's at school, get any food he wants. Chocolate muffins, Lucky Charms cereal, Pop-Tarts. These are the things they serve for school breakfast. Burgers, which are mostly bun and hardly any meat, at lunchtime, pizza, all that stuff. So he could get a French fries, seed oils, all that, non-fat, everything full of chemicals.
Well, all those, including Fruit Loops, are part of the healthy food groups, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. And of course, according to the school, they are. They have to go by the MyPlate guidelines. So this is not anything that I'm speaking out against my own personal school district, because I'm an agent of that district. But this is an issue that I have personally with the federal guidelines, which is the MyPlate that then, gets passed down to the state, which gets passed down to the school districts. And so, but I've watched, especially when we do state testing, I ask the kids, try to eat some protein. A lot of them don't know what protein even is. They'll say a protein bar. Like that's their answer because it has the word protein in it. And so I have to give them suggestions. But when I watch what they're feeding them for those, 3 weeks that we're doing state testing, and I'm standing there just watching them eat. I mean, one day it was like a honey bun and a pineapple. Why? I don't know. It was Fruit Loops, like what you said. And it's either non-fat chocolate milk or 1% white milk is their 2 milk choices. So not whole milk even. They literally one day they had this like breakfast sandwich looking thing. And in my mind, I'm walking up and I'm thinking, I hope there's ham and cheese in there, but I knew there wouldn't be. So I said, hey, what's in there? And they said caramel. And then they showed me the package. And yes, it was a caramel filled piece of, I don't know, bread stuff, pastry. Chocolate muffin top with chocolate chips. This is what they're serving our kids for breakfast. And this is what they're eating before they go in and take like their annual testing. But that's also, it's typical, right? That's actually typical of what they feed them for breakfast. Mm-hmm.
So Papa Carnivore has a comment. Rick, the Duckman, Charger Moper in the chat, has had long-term carb deficiency for 41 years, and I think he's feeling great. Right, Rick? No need for any increase in carbs. And then the symptoms of carb deficiency I'm having are high energy, mental clarity, and perfect health. And Christie also made a heart attack chicken video.
Oh,
I have one. I never published it, but I did send it to Rick. Heart attack chicken and heart attack beef bacon. So, anyways, okay. So I have a couple of questions for you. One of them is, you mentioned red dye, and I believe they were trying to pass, or something happened about red dye, but it's not going to be, they're outlawing it, but it's going to take a couple of years for that to become to be in effect, right? Yeah. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, although I don't know any more detail than that about it, but yes, that's my understanding. I think it was red 40, I want to say.
Now, that is one of the many things that we have probably identified as being part of the problem. It's probably one of 100, but at least there is some progress. Some restaurants have switched to using beef tallow to fry their potatoes. So I don't know how much good of it, but at least it's something towards what we think is the right side, right? What are your hopes for the guidelines, which are a very big issue? And I think with the current administration, Bobby Kennedy Jr., uh, I think there is hope, my opinion. I don't know if something very big will happen, but what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I'm not sure how much change there is going to be in those guidelines. I would hope that we would get guidelines that no longer demonize saturated fat, that would put meat more towards the bottom, that would take out, grains, that would specify that processed foods, especially highly processed foods, those hyper palatable ones, should not be, what we base our diet around at all. And unfortunately, now that's what they're feeding not only all the kids at school, which I see every day, but anyone that's dependent on, like the military and, hospitals and prisons and all these places, right, where you're kind of there and you're, given what is considered healthy according to these guidelines. And so if it could even just be more whole foods. I mean, at the beginning of my educational career, I never saw kids with things like skin tags. I don't recall ever seeing that. Now it could just be that my eyes are open more now to it, so I see it more. But I mean, I see with the kids with skin tags, more and more overweight kids. We have to do physical fitness tests. Most of them will not do a mile in under 20 minutes. I'm like, I can walk a mile in under 20 minutes, but they won't even walk fast enough to do that. And I see parents even enabling some of that, like saying, please excuse my child from PE because their leg hurts or that kind of thing. Not they had an injury, like, oh, their leg just randomly hurts for no reason. So don't make them, do their mile or whatever today. And so I've just kind of seen the effects of this stuff. And I think our kids who haven't spent, like, I know that I personally damaged my metabolism and all of that by doing what I did with the binging and restricting and, long periods of not eating and not really, if I did eat meat, it was like chicken breast and that kind of thing. I know that I damaged myself, but oh my goodness, if the kids we see kids bringing like Costco sized bags of chips, from home, and they pull those out and they eat those at recess time. So if we could get people to understand that, oh, please just eat some whole food for the love of health, eat some whole food. And get rid of this processed stuff and please let them have whole milk and that kind of thing. I think that we would be so much better off, especially where I teach, because it is a socioeconomically disadvantaged population. A lot of them do rely on school foods, and they may not even have food in their cupboard at home. So that's like the main meals they're getting come from the school. So how sad is that it's highly processed, full of sugar stuff?
So I do believe in personal responsibility and also
Yes,
choice. However, this you mentioned 4 groups right now. It's not only the school, but this applies to correctional facilities, to armed forces, and who you did mention 4. Right? What was the other?
hospitals. I said hospitals.
Yeah,
Mhm.
hospitals. So a lot of that is tied to federal funding. Okay,
Yes.
the way it works is we give you money, you have to follow these guidelines. So even if the individual institutions or someone at the individual institutions has realized this is not the perfect situation, this should change, they can't, because current federal funding guidelines are given to people who are following the guidelines, in this case, the food guidelines. So has to be changed by legislation and executive orders. And so any individual institution is kind of between a rock and a hard place if they try to change on their own, independently, realizing the problems that I think the whole system has. So would it be the best thing to change the food guidelines, tilt them on their head and then force those, or at least to expand choices. So in these places, the people who are there actually have a choice to have more real food, for example, fatty meat, even vegetables and fruits. I mean, I'm not against 100% of the time for 100% of the people saying that they're completely bad, but I don't tolerate them well anymore. I did enough of my damage, so I have to watch what I eat, even in carnivore. So, what do you think? What will be? Let's say Christie has the power to change the guidelines or the situations around the guidelines. What? Give me three suggestions here. You have them that you would do.
Well, I think I kind of said it. I would love for them to not fear fat. I think especially kids' brains need fat, and everything on the menu is low fat, and I think that is horrible. And whatever fat is in there, I think it's seed oils, like in the salad dressing that they like, the non-fat ranch salad dressing at the salad bar, for an example. Wouldn't have seed oils, but it would be all full of chemicals. And then whatever fat is there, like in the croutons and that kind of thing, it's all like the seed oils, right? And so I would love for them to not fear saturated fat. I would love for them to offer whole protein. I rarely see that except for maybe in the hamburger patty, which is maybe like a 3-ounce little tiny, patty. I wish that they had options like eggs and sausage or eggs and bacon. It would be very easy to do some kind of breakfast type of sandwich thing instead of Fruit Loops with non-fat milk. So those would be the things I wish would change. But I do think it's going to take some education and some personal experience on the parents' part for benefits. So like I said, every testing season, I make a big deal. I go around, I criticize what the kids are eating in a friendly way with them, and I say, oh my gosh, let's read that packaging. And what's the protein report? Did you have any protein at home? Because there's no protein in this. So what'd you have at home? And some kids will take me up on it and they'll, implement some bacon and eggs. And so I had one student this testing season, so just in this last month, took my recommendation to have bacon and eggs very seriously. And there was no other change to this child's diet other than adding the bacon and eggs all through the 3 weeks of testing. And then when testing was over, the parents just kept doing it. Now this child, which I'm being very careful about not dropping any names or telling how I know these parents and that kind of thing, but is a special needs child with probably some ADD and some other issues, and is in special education. And just this child has a hard time, paying attention, following directions, quickly. If you say log into this website, 20 minutes later, she's not logged in unless you stand right next to her or assign her a buddy to get her logged in, because she just kind of goes off into her own place, and that kind of thing, right? That's kind of how she operates. But after a month of just implementing bacon and eggs in the morning, the parents told me they kind of came about it in a roundabout way, but they're like, yeah, we've noticed this and this and this. And myself and our other teacher are saying, yeah, we've noticed, that she's raising her hand and answering questions, and she never used to ever do that before. And we're going, well, what did you change? And the parents are saying, oh, well, nothing. Oh yeah. Actually about a month ago when you started doing the protein thing, we started giving her bacon and eggs, but that's the only thing we've changed. And just with that, the parents and her 2 teachers notice significant changes, in her outlook towards school and her ability to, participate with the class.
And I think in the scenario that I put to you, just expanding the choices for the kids might be drawn to having the real food if they have it available. Sometimes we're victim of an environment, and it's not that they want to eat that way, but if that's the only thing available, that's what they eat. And we have to remember that a 5 to 10-year-old probably has parents that are anywhere from 20 to 30, maybe 35 years old. So even those that are under 35 or even 40 grew up with this avalanche of ultra processed foods becoming a thing. And that you go to the supermarket, of course, it's a horror show to me. A lot of people see it, oh, we have more choices, but part of it is, you mentioned the education, of course, of understanding what those food choices could be. So at the very least, if we didn't change radically what's available, but we added to what's available, I think it would make a difference. We'll see what happens.
Well,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead and comment. I have kind of a question or comment for you, but
okay, I was just gonna say our school won the prize. Now, the way we won it was not the best. It was because we had the highest participation in school breakfast in the district, so that was not a great way to get there. But the prize was kind of cool. They had the local farmer that grows all of the fruits and vegetables that they do serve at lunch. They don't really serve any at breakfast, but at lunch, I guess I'd never see it, but they serve like fresh fruits and vegetables. And the farmer came and she spoke to the students all about, the farm and what it looks like. And she brought a bunch of fresh fruits and vegetables and let the kids, like she said, you have to pick one, like 3 different ones, but like she had avocados up there and some oranges and things that they grew on the farm. And I thought, well, at least this is whole food. At least they're getting to talk to this farmer that grew that food that's going to be served at their table, which is very different from opening a plastic container, which is like the pizza just comes in a plastic bag. And I'm sure there's got to be microplastics in there because I think they heat them up in those things. It's just so bad. But at least the farmer that grows the fresh fruit, that the kids get offered. I thought that was kind of neat. And the students did respond to that. Even the 5th graders, who are sometimes a little more jaded than the younger ones, I think they enjoyed, having her come and talk. And we also invited the California Dairy Council will send a cow to your school. And so they only will do it every other year. So we'll do it next year. This year we had to do it virtually. But yeah, they will send a cow to your school and talk about where milk comes from and all of that and how the dairy farm works. And the students are very intrigued by that kind of thing. So I think if you can engage them, in that type of thing, it makes them more interested in, eating that way as opposed to
you need to organize an outing to take a bunch of those kids to a beef farm.
Yes, that would be fabulous.
By the way, have you bought any more? You have bought half a cow, half beef portion?
I did, and mine is pretty much gone, and I have not purchased another one. My brother wanted to try to find a different ranch or a different supplier, but he's very busy, so I don't think he's done that yet. So in the meantime, I just make myself content with my picanha, which you knew I had to say, Dr. Nelson. You couldn't get away with talking to me and not saying the word picanha. So there you go.
Well, guess what I had for breakfast this morning? I said I was gonna fast today. I said it in the morning live, and I did have a picanha steak still, maybe 3-4 days aging in the refrigerator. I dry brine and it was still there. So that's I went ahead and had some. I ate only half, a small portion. I put the rest back. But so that's one of my favorite cuts. That's one of what else do you like, by the way? What other type of steaks do you eat?
So I do love a good ribeye, but I haven't had one in a while. They used to go on sale more, and now they don't. So I guess I don't like them that much because the picanha I'll buy never goes on sale, and I just buy it because I like it. But I do enjoy a good ribeye. I do like just the good old burger patties, and those are inexpensive. I'll get in on a kick and have 2 or 3 of those just with some salt. Occasionally a slice of cheese, usually not though. Usually just the beef and salt is what I'll go to. Bacon and eggs is a big one for me, especially when I'm on summer break because I have time to do that. Any other meat? Oh, chuck roast. My son goes through chuck roast like nobody's business. So I usually don't have any just because I'll make it. And then that's just for him because he doesn't like as many other things. And chuck roast is one of his favorites. And so, but the last chuck roast you got was like pretty big. So I felt okay having a portion. And I just like that just in the crock pot, in the crock pot all day. It's delicious. I don't eat, other than bacon, I don't regularly eat meat that isn't beef, but I'll occasionally enjoy some chicken thighs, cooked Rick's way, heart attack style. And my son enjoys chicken thighs more often than I do. So I will usually have chicken thighs around, and I'll occasionally eat them, but he'll eat them, more often than I. And that's really, I mean, occasionally I'll eat other stuff, but that's the majority of what I eat, with a heavy emphasis on the picanha. There's always a picanha in my freezer and one I'm thawing in the fridge. So yeah.
I have to replenish my supply because I actually cut the last. Do I have one? I think I still have one in the fridge actually. I take that back. So I always have picanha available because picanha is it's tasteful. It's not the most expensive cut nowadays. I think the cheapest I have been able to find is like $8 something a pound to $10 a pound. Now you could find ribeye at that price, but usually it's gonna be the toughest ribeye you can find.
It'll be like
Usually,
the select. It won't be even the choice. It'll be the select usually.
Yeah,
at least
select or even not rated.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, but a good piece of prime ribeye is definitely run you over $20 a pound. All right. So have you ever checked your cholesterol? I kind of know the answer for you. So it's good that someone asking this. Have you ever checked your total cholesterol? Mine reached at 420. I eat only lamb.
Yes, I am what you call a lean mass hyperresponder. I've checked my cholesterol twice and both times have come out that way, but I was leaner at one point. I was maybe 15 pounds lighter. And that was the first time I had it checked. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was well over 400 total. But I did the particle density test and all of the LDL was the big fluffy, small dense cholesterol was so low that it was there's like a line and then there's a little arrow that shows where it is. And it was like at the end, like at the lowest end, you couldn't see any of the line. So yes, but definitely a lean mass hyperresponder. When I gained a little bit of weight, about 10 or 15 pounds more than that, it's still a lean mass hyperresponder, but it was like right around 300 instead of over 400, which I think kind of follows that lipid energy model. It'll be interesting to see because when I'm not teaching, like now, I've already taken off about 5 pounds. I think, those stress hormones, I think, play into the weight and things. So we'll see if my weight goes down. I would be interested to take it again, just if I ever get back down to that leaner weight that I was a couple of years ago. If it were, I bet it would shoot right back up into that 400 plus category.
So what happens in general with the lean mass hyperresponder people, and you can search for the specific limits. I can't remember right now if the HDL is 80, I believe. The triglycerides need to be under 100 or 70 something. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers either.
What happens is your total cholesterol is high, your LDL cholesterol is high, your HDL is also high, but your triglycerides are
low.
Very low, and some people almost incredibly low. But high triglycerides correlate more with risk of cardiovascular events than LDL cholesterol ever did. So In the case of the particles, you had the particles, and the small LDL-P was the number that you're talking that was low. That particular number, if you listen to people like Dr. Ovadia and you read the literature, that's the particles that have the highest risk associated for cardiovascular events. If your LDL are big and fluffy, and pretty much any, even the HDL particles, big and fluffy is good, small and dense is less good. High HDL is a bigger negative predictor of cardiovascular events than LDL cholesterol ever was. So high HDL, great. Low triglycerides, great. LDL by itself apparently means nothing. There are a couple of studies that have come out already, and everything is looking pretty good on that. Now, I am sad about this because we've been over an hour now. So thank you, Christie, for being here. So what happened with the Lioness? Did you cancel it or put it on hold or what?
I mean, I might choose to pick it back up. I think my other two hosts just have other things going on. If I pick it back up, I don't know if I'll do it solo or if I'll try to recruit some other hosts. But between their lives just kind of going in other directions and me just being exhausted in that last month of school, yeah, we haven't had any new episodes recently. But I do love that format very much. And I had a few comments here that people miss it. I've gotten comments in other places that people missed it. And I missed it as well because we had a really neat group of viewers that would come, every Tuesday faithfully, to watch the show. So at some point I may, get the inclination to pick that back up. But as you know, Dr. Nelson, these weekly live streams, when you've got to be there on that day every single week, plus, I'm a mom and a teacher and all that, it was getting to be a lot. And with the other two hosts being pulled in other directions, we just, put it on pause for now.
It can become very tough, definitely, but we want to share with everyone. That's, there's no one here paying for being on the live stream, of course. And if you have a story to tell, please put it out there, even if 2 people are watching or it's 50. Someone made a comment, by the way, this 3 p.m. is new, and we're getting up to sometimes half of what the morning lives are. So hopefully it'll take. But it is tough. Kiltz Health has 7, 8 live hours, sometimes with Sunday, which is that didn't happen yesterday, I believe. But sometimes Dr. Kiltz does a Sunday one, usually by himself. So that's 9 hours. We have Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern, as you probably all know, with Dr. Kiltz. Usually Alia, Dr. Kiltz, and me are there. And then we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern. Usually it's me. People were asking Alia, why are you not there? She does have other things to do, but if she wants to be here, she knows she can be here. And sometimes Dr. Kiltz shows up here as well. And today was a special exception. Usually don't do it on Mondays. So thank you for being here, everyone. And tomorrow, let me say who's going to be here tomorrow, because I believe it's someone we all know. It's someone called Carrie. Carrie Mann from Healing Humanity will be here tomorrow at 3 p.m. So, and Ferrigno Freedom, or Dante Ferrigno is his name, will be in an hour and a half in the Kiltz Mighty Tribe. Go to the link, sign up if you're not a member. You have to be a member of the tribe to watch, but it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you, Christie. Where do we find you?
Yeah, so my channel is Meeting Wellness. And if you take the comment down, Dr. Nelson, they'll be able to see it there. And I have lots of videos there. And then there's still the Lioness Lifestyle Live channel where you can find all the replays. And most of what we did on that show was interviews. So different interviews with different women doing a meat-based diet and their results with that. So those are the two places on social media where I am. I do have another live stream planned on Sunday. So looking forward to at least getting back into some live streams this summer, and maybe a couple grocery haul videos too, which is something that I do. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm going to try going shopping at an actual meat store, and we'll see how that goes. So
people love those.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you for being here again.
Yep.
Go to at Meeting Wellness and subscribe to her channel. And you have a good afternoon. I'll see you in the Zoom call in just an hour and a half at the Kiltz Mighty Tribe. Okay? Have a good day.
Bye.